kind of feel bad for this movie. I don't know how much money it's gonna make on opening weekend, but how do you advertise a movie where the main villain is called the Motherfucker? Have you seen those action figures that they've been selling at Toys R Us where they have to rename the figures to make them age appropriate? And even worse, Hit Girl looks like a dude. Hey guys, David here with another review, and this time we're going to be talking about Kick-Ass 2, or as it was originally going to be called, Kick-Ass Balls to the Walls. The movie finds Dave and his alter ego Kick-Ass inspiring other people to fight crime, thus creating this uprising of superheroes in New York City. While at the same time, Chris D'Amico, the son of the villain from the first movie played by Mark Strong, is out to get revenge on Kick-Ass for presumably killing his father. All while Minnie McCready, aka Hit Girl, takes on probably the biggest threat that has ever come her way. High school. Wasn't that just the biggest threat for all of us? Now this was a really good movie, but it wasn't exactly better than the first one, and the reason for that is because I feel I saw this from the I predicted this from the trailers, and now after having seen the movie, I can honestly say that my prediction was right, and that is that this movie is pretty much an expansion of the first movie. It doesn't exactly do anything that new or creative that the first movie didn't already do, but it just takes, you know, the story of Chris D'Amico of how he felt at the end of the first movie where he was like, wait till they get a load of me, and just takes that and expands it and says, okay, now, you know, he's actually got this plan in order to take, extract revenge from Kick-Ass and forming this group of arch enemies and taking on Kick-Ass and his group of superheroes known as Justice Forever. The movie feels a little divided in certain acts of the movie, but not choppy. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is a separate movie. No, it genuinely feels like the comic book. Almost the entire first act of the movie is solely focused on Hit Girl. It's almost Hit Girl's movie in the first act. You almost forget about Kick-Ass because it focuses on Hit Girl so much in terms of her development as both the vigilante that she is after her father's passing in the first movie, played by Nicolas Cage, but on top of that, also Minnie McCready, the girl who is getting into high school and dealing with teenage problems, boys, you know, the mean girls, the popular kids, that sort of stuff. And some of it could be a little typical, maybe even a little cheesy. I mean, you got the jock, you got the popular girl, the ice queen, if you will, from high school that we've all seen not only in real life but in movies. But the fact that this little portion of the movie stars Hit Girl makes you go, yeah, this is going to be awesome. There's going to be some form of comeuppance later on because you know that deep down, you know, this girl, Hit Girl, can own everybody's asses, and she's got something up her sleeve to really stick it to these popular kids. And she does. Then at the end of that, we get introduced to the Justice Forever League of superheroes formed by Colonel Stars and Stripes, and Kick-Ass gets inducted into this league. And here's where the story for Kick-Ass picks up indefinitely. And the introduction of all these different characters is really nice to see. Each one has their own little personality. It's not the most in-depth personality for these characters, but it's nice to see these characters and wonder, you know, how much, you know, what kind of background they have in terms of... And also there's a scene where each one of them explains why they each became a superhero. And I just wish that scene could have lasted a little bit longer because it was very intriguing to see, you know, the different, you know, background to why these people became superheroes and why Kick-Ass inspired them. Especially Colonel Stars and Stripes, played by Jim Carrey. I'm not gonna say he's a total scene stealer like the way the Joker was in The Dark Knight. I know I make that reference an awful lot, and I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that. But I'm not gonna say he's a total scene stealer, but when he's on screen, he definitely has a really large presence. I mean, you know, when he's on screen, you almost forget that Kick-Ass is in the room because you're like, wow, that's Jim Carrey as Colonel Stars and Stripes. I want to know more about it. He's hardly in the movie, which is definitely a downside, but at the same time, maybe the fact that he's hardly in the movie kind of makes those moments that he is in the movie a lot more precious. And after the introduction of this team, you see, you know, different scenes of them interacting with one another, and I'm like, man, you could have stretched this out a little bit more, had Colonel Stars and Stripes be in the movie even more, and this would have been an even more enjoyable movie because I loved seeing these guys. Everybody had their own little personality. And man, Night Bitch is hot. Which is weird coming from me because I generally don't like girls that are that skinny and slim. Maybe it was the mask. And one of the members in Justice Forever is the character that Clark Duke played in the first movie. And I like the fact that he was a little more proactive here. He was more than just a character to throw out jokes like he was in the first movie. And Christopher Mintz-Plasse as Chris D'Amico, aka the Motherfucker, as well as his team of what was it? Oh yeah, the something crunch, you know, I don't want to say too many bad words in this review, but anyways, yeah, his own little league of supervillains. I thought that they were really formidable villains for Kick-Ass. However, that's the perfect segue for me to get into the thing that I didn't like about this movie, and that's that this movie makes you wish of a lot of things, that it could have done. And, you know, it makes you wish that it could have done different things, or at least done different things that they did in the movie, but that would have been coherent with the comic book. Because, and I know this for a fact, even though I have not read the book, I know that this happens because I've seen some behind the scenes videos and interviews. But the motherfucker does some really, really harsh stuff in the comics. And you can see in some particular scenes in the middle of the movie where he's going about doing his business that you can tell in the comic he would have done that, but in the movie they literally say, "Oh no, I'm not gonna do that. That's too much." They literally say that, and I like that it was a little bit of a meta moment there. But I feel, and I'm gonna sound so morbid, I'm gonna sound like a terrible person when I'm about to say this, but I kind of wish that he did do that stuff that, you know, he could have done. Except the movie writes it in a way where where you know they dance around it. I kind of wish that they would have done he does in the comic, because then this movie would have had an even heavier emotional toll. Like the stakes would have been high, and that's one of the things that you kind of sort of want to do with a sequel, is make, you know, to intensify it even more, to make it darker. I mean, this could have been The Empire Strikes Back to the first Kick-Ass movie, and going with that darker tone would have, like I said, have a harsher emotional toll on the movie. It would have presented a lot more, and it would have made us root for Kick-Ass a whole lot more, because when, you know, when the climax comes and the way that climax resolves itself, I'm kind of like, okay, that happened, but I would have rooted for Kick-Ass even more if this stuff had happened before. Not only in the way that it's written, but also in the way that it's presented. I'm not going to go into spoilers, so don't worry about that, but let's just say that a certain character is threatened to be beaten up really bad. Like they say, beat this character up really bad, you know, like harsh. And the next time you see this character has just a few bruises, and I'm like, okay, you know, Rihanna looked worse. So in that sense, it was a little comic booky, but even the comic book itself was darker. So I wish that they would have been a little more coherent with the comic book and gone for that darker tone. And that way we would have been a lot more emotionally invested. And this would have been an even better sequel because of that investment we would have had with Kick-Ass and the characters that are, you know, need to defeat this evil because of the fact that he's so evil. Nonetheless, this is a good sequel. It's got good characters, some great action, and several gags here and there that genuinely made me laugh. Pun intended, if you know what I mean. It doesn't exactly top the first one, but I'm definitely up for a third one. I give Kick-Ass an 8.4 out of 10, which is a B. And I never thought I would say this about Kick-Ass out of all things, but stay tuned after the end credits. I saw a lot of people leave, and I'm like, man, you guys are missing on something. And sure enough, there is something at the end of the credits that is definitely worth talking about. Thank you guys for watching, and to all my fellow viewers, continue to kick ass.